Follow me to the sunshine streets, open your ears and brains. A recipe of fresh and bloody treats, right here's where you jump the trains. The clock stops here, so grab a beer, throw your sensibilities away. We ain't walking, we're talking to the north, east, west, and south. This broadcast is fast like the dead we will last. We're running on rotten mouths. We're talking to the north, east, west, and south. This rotten cast is fast like the dead we will last. We're running on rotten mouths. Come on, we're running on rotten mouths. We're running on rotten mouths.
All right, welcome back to this Rotten Podcast. This is our third episode, so we're old pros now.
Old pros, veterans.
I'm Jacy Morris, the world's most famous indigenous punk rock horror author that ever lived, named Jacy.
I second that. Well, no, I'm not that, but
not
I'm
that.
Nick Cale, and I second what he said because I know that he's right.
And what are you the most famous for?
The most consecutive roundhouse kicks during a rock show while wearing canvas 80s hair metal pants.
That's pretty good. How many kicks is that?
74. While
74
singing,
kicks.
while extending The End of Panama by Van Halen, let's see, for however long it takes to do over 70 kicks.
That's what everyone wants, dude. Everyone wants more of the ending of Panama. Everyone.
Well, that's what we thought.
Dude, that's the worst part about 80s songs is like they just didn't know how to end it, right? That's why I like punk rock, because it's like, hey, we played this song for 2 minutes. We're kind of tired now. And they just quit. And then you're like, Panama's like, Panama. It's just going on for like 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to have to agree with a little part of what you said. I never did like the modulation, meaning like, so you've got the end of the song, right? And the 80s did this all the time. And then let's just bring the whole key up a note. And here's the chorus again. And I'm like, guys, just sing the chorus again, or add a harmony or something, or some kicks.
Just walk off the stage.
Or walk off the stage.
Into a blender.
Yeah.
So today we've got a theme for you. Our theme this episode is post-apocalyptic stuff. So we're going to be talking post-apocalyptic movies, post-apocalyptic books.
Say that one time fast.
I'm going to be stumbling over that. You're going to get a lot of mouth noises. Post-apocalyptic. Apocalyptic. But yeah, we're talking all things post-apocalyptic. I might shorten it to PA. So if you skip past this opening bit and you're like, yo, what's he keep PA? Physician's assistant?
I don't understand.
Or post-apocalyptic. I'm going to shorten it so I can actually say it without like turning into a tongue twister every time. It's an abbreviation.
Oh, I get it now.
Wow. This is my...
And scene.
It's my co-host. All right. So the first thing we got to do is we have to kind of define what post-apocalyptic is, because people have a lot of misconceptions about it, right? And that's because there's three main things that can just get confused, and sometimes there's fusions of them. So you're not quite sure what is post-apocalyptic. So for me, the definition of post-apocalyptic is society's done, right? And you're basically back to nomadic or villager lifestyles, right? There's no overarching government. For things that have overarching governments, that's a dystopian movie, because they're making weird laws. They're forcing you to live under their, the heel of their.
Okay.
That's dystopian. You could have a world that's mostly dead, but there's a government making people do things outside of a city state. Then that's more dystopian.
Quick question to clarify for the fans and me. So if you had something, can there be a middle ground? There's a part that's a little confusing to me, whether I would go dystopian or post-apocalyptic. For instance, like, I don't know if the postman's a good example, but you have people trying to administer their own brand of like control and justice, but it's not yet an established government. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, that's why that's post-apocalyptic,
That would still be
because
post,
if they literally controlled like the whole West Coast or
like an
something,
ultraviolet.
yeah,
That
that would be, yeah, that's more dystopian.
okay.
Um, because you're getting someone is in control, they have power,
Yeah.
right? Those guys in the Postman had power over their little sphere, but as soon as you got away from them, you're like, screw these guys. They're weird. I don't like them.
Yeah.
So that's the third one, and then I separate zombie movies out completely because that's just a different vibe. It's a different thing going on. It's not about
Hmm.
um, zombie movies are about survival. Some of it's scavenging and stuff, but mostly it's about survival. And the post-apocalyptic movie is about picking up the pieces and trying to figure out, well, what's gonna happen in the future here, and dealing with the consequences of what happened in the past.
Yeah.
And a zombie movie to me, are they post-apocalyptic? Yes, but I separate them out as a separate category. So we're not really gonna be talking zombies today. That'll be another show at some other time. Uh, and that's the definition. What do you think?
I feel like I'm back in some of my first 102 level, 100 level logic courses in philosophy where I'm looking at the tautology circles and being like, well, not all zombies are in apocalyptic, but it is apocalyptic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I mean that's why I put that
But I
distinction
think
on
it's
there,
pretty clear.
because if I didn't put the distinction on there, and we started talking about post-apocalyptic stuff, it would just all be zombie stuff for me because that's my favorite stuff, and so I
Yeah.
have to make it a different category to even talk about it in a way that's exploring the themes and the ideas of that genre.
Okay. I mean, I think that's a good explanation for it. Um, and I'm glad you clarified because I wasn't even thinking dystopian. I didn't even really have a term for that until you brought it up. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like it's a future that's like ours, just extreme and dark.
And it's all about control and power
Yeah.
as well,
And it's
because
after
there's
something like a in a post-apocalyptic movie, it's after something that specifically that happened, some event that really changed things. However, you still have some form of administration.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. So when you think about post-apocalyptic movies, what do you like about them? What I'm drawn to them, but I think you're drawn to them too,
I am, yeah.
and I just want to know, well, what does Nick like about post-apocalyptic movies?
The simplest thing is the aesthetic. And some movies do it better than others, but I really like the air, the eerie air of silence in them. I like the open landscape. Um, and that kind of like setting kind of really sets you up for just like, oh, what's going to come next? I mean, there could be something just around any corner, you know. I like that kind of suspense. And then, of course, usually the characters are pretty fun to watch how they um, handle certain hardships.
Yeah,
Um,
because they're not bound by laws anymore. They get
yeah,
to act as a human would for their own benefit most of the times.
yeah. That's also cool to see humans thrown back into like small communities again. Like you have to work together if you want to make things work, and then you just really viscerally hate the ones that are just making it hard on the group. Where it's like, well, I'm just gonna make a deal with this, and you're just, you fucking scumbag, dude. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Which is relatable to pre-apocalyptic stuff, but
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I like about it is there's this word out there, uh, pronounced canopsia.
Oh,
You ever heard of that?
I don't think so.
So canopsia is the feeling you get when you walk into an abandoned building.
Canopsia.
Have you ever done that? Or you've just been in a place that like used to be people here, used to be people working.
Yeah.
It's crumbling, it's falling apart, and there's some weird feeling about it. Right? That feeling is canopsia.
Huh.
And so for me, that's like the draw to post-apocalyptic movies is that feeling I get when I walk into an abandoned place, which You know, if there's anyone out there that wants to just send me around the world to abandoned places, I would do that for like the rest of my life. I think that's amazing. But in post-apocalyptic movies, I can get that feeling through that. My favorite parts aren't even like the action or the violence. It's just seeing a whole city abandoned and just wanting to be there. Like I just want to be there. I want to walk and just look at the way things fall apart.
Hmm.
And that's why I'm drawn to them.
Yeah. I get canopsia when I go into a lot of Rite Aids now. Have you noticed the shelves are just, I mean, they're just empty. I think they're just getting skewed and gutted by Amazon and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't noticed.
Canopsia. I would change if I was in charge of I would just change Rite Aid to Canopsia. At least it would create some curiosity or something about
Come walk around our barren aisles.
Yeah.
And enjoy the feeling.
Yeah. Kind of nice.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm here to pick up my toe fungus cream. But now I get to walk around and experience canopsia.
Yeah. Did you ever do that stuff when you were a kid? Did you just like go run around in like abandoned buildings? Can you remember any specific places?
When you first were describing it, I was remembering some places in West Virginia that there was an old cannery. And then there was also, I don't know if this counts, but a convent that was literally tucked away in the woods and the hills that were maybe like a mile walk from the neighborhood where we all hung out.
Were there actual nuns there, or was it just like abandoned?
Abandoned.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was really trippy.
Was it boarded up? Could you go inside?
You could go in through maybe, you could walk around in like 15% of like one of the wings because one of the window openings was accessible.
Nice.
It was creepy, dude. Giant statue of Mary holding baby Jesus too, right before you get there, up on an overlook to the convent.
Awesome.
It was weird stuff. But yeah,
nice.
That's a great word.
Canopsia.
Come on.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah, even just like I love like when we go on a trip somewhere, I'll just be staring off into like the woods, right? And I remember on the East Coast there was this, when I lived in Virginia, there was an old abandoned like kids park like we have Enchanted Forest here, and it's, you know, it's nothing special. It's got some small rides. It's sort of silly, but where I live, we'd every now and then we'd pass by this abandoned one. I was just like, let me out right here. I just want to go walk around. So even when I was a kid, I remember that stuff. And of course in Virginia, like there's a lot more old buildings, things falling apart that are just abandoned. But yeah, to me, that's what post-apocalyptic stuff is about. Granted, I love what people have done with it. I love the weird stuff they've done with it, the visions of, you know, a world after, you know, society's gone. And so that stuff's cool too. But for me, it starts with the canopsia. So yeah.
I'm using that word all the time I can now.
Yeah.
Any chance I get.
You have a chance. Do it. Do it now.
You should have seen me when I walked into the Walgreens the other day. Should have seen. I right away had this air of canopsia. Shit, I'm going to work on it.
Yeah, you need to do some work on that one. So we're both fans of post-apocalyptic stuff.
Absolutely.
And you know, when we were on the verge of living in a post-apocalyptic society back in 2020, when COVID hit, we were all sort of sequestered in our own places. We started hanging out. Like you got into our bubble, and we were hanging out, and we started watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
which is not post-apocalyptic, but from there, we got the idea for my greatest work that's post-apocalyptic, besides This Rotten World, which is zombie post-apocalyptic, which is totally different category.
Way different.
But we came up with the idea for One Night Stand at the end of the world. And when it first started, we didn't even really know what it was going to be. And the version, I have 6 books now. I'm actually finishing up the 7th one as we speak.
Whew.
I'm on my last revision. Then I got to get some edits and a cover, and then I'll be done. But then I'll be on part 7. But we came up with this idea because I was like, Nick, you're so talented. Why don't you like do stuff? And you do stuff like you're in your band, but I wanted to like bring you up even higher. I wanted to use something that took advantage of your abilities, like singing. You can act,
Kicking.
you can kick, you're really funny, and you're a good friend too, to some people.
That's what you've heard anyway.
That's what I heard. Some people told me that. I think maybe Scott said it, but it was sarcastic. But he did say it.
Was that you that said that? I know there was one guy one time that said that I could be a good friend.
It wasn't Scott. I messed up. I must have overheard it. So we sat around. I wrote a screenplay. So One Night Stand at the End of the World started out as a screenplay first. And I can't remember. It was probably like 23 pages.
Probably near there. Yeah, 23, 30. It was in that realm. Yeah.
And the conceit is that it's the end of the world. Gee, that sucks. But you got to get on with your life at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And so my idea was that in order to survive in this world, there's going to be some weirdos out there. And I wanted a weirdo because weird's fun.
It is. Yeah.
And I came up with the idea of a comedian who travels around the wasteland. And that's how he gets his food. He goes into places, does his show, and then gets the heck out with a lot of times very meager offerings.
Yeah, at best.
At best.
Oh man.
And then, yeah. What else do you remember about those days, those ideas? Anything you want to add?
Specifically, I remember being excited about the idea that because we were talking about the concept of stand-up stuff, but all the material was about, fuck, the world ended, So it's like instead of, something about like, don't you hate it when you ask your good friends to move? And then, it's like some harsh shit, but it would still be the same kind of thing, the same like mannerisms and caricatures and stuff, but it's about stuff that happened after the world ended. So that idea alone, I was like, that's great, Yeah. And then you ran with it. And I remember meeting up sometimes and picking some ideas and picking some of the character ideas and names. And I think even this guy over here threw his hat in the idea
Scott
ring.
was there.
Yeah, he was doing some good stuff.
With my terrible hearing, the combination of my terrible hearing and Scott managed to create one of my favorite characters in the entire series. Do you remember that one?
Wait, now I'm trying to wait. Give me a second here.
I don't think we have a second. No one wants to stare at you for like an hour, staring off into space while you access your memory.
Says you.
Maybe there's one person out there.
What do you think I wore this shirt?
I couldn't tell you.
Oh, okay.
That's a you thing.
I thought you liked it.
You never asked, but anyways, remember Bean Dick Arnold?
It's Bean Dick Arnold. I would have got there in like 2 seconds. I was there. I was close.
So anyway, Scott has said the name Benedict Arnold, and I just totally overheard it. I was like, "What are you saying? What are you saying?" Anyways, that became a whole character in. I think that was part 2 in One Night Stand on the Waste.
Mm-hmm.
But so we got this idea. We got together. Nick brought in Scott, he's technically gifted and can think up practical things.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm just like, guess what? It's all post-apocalyptic, and there's all these people, and they're in a town, and there's fireworks going off, and then reality hits, and you need someone like Scott to do it.
Yeah,
right? And you're just sitting there like, I got to memorize my lines. What do you think of this? What do you think of that?
Yeah. Do this different. Okay.
So we got together and we actually went and made this short film. Right. And it wound up being I don't know, 20 minutes, 25.
About 25, yeah.
Yeah. And the most impressive thing about it to me was, well, actually, there's two very most impressive things about it. There's three, actually. The more I think about it, I just keep getting more and more impressed by it.
Yeah, it was great.
So one of the
Because
first things
we said so. We were there, and it
we
was
were there.
great.
We made it in
Yeah.
the rain.
In the rain, in October.
It was October. Yeah, it was cold rain.
It was.
It was dumping buckets. But the first amazing thing is that you managed to memorize that whole script, right? Because you have a whole stand-up routine in there
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much 17 pages of you just doing stand-up. And a lot of that, it's pretty much word for word in the first book, that stand-up.
It's very close.
And you did it in like one take. We did multiple angles of it, but you were able to do it in a whole take.
I'd stand up and bow right now, but Scott would throw a book at me or something.
Yeah. Well, hoping not one of my books.
No, he wouldn't use. I mean, even though it would hurt, but I don't want to move the mic, and
And then the other amazing thing is like we did it with basically no money. Like, we spent he's got the book over here.
Holy shit! I
He's
thought
got
that
a
was
copy
coming
of
my
One Night
way.
Stand. And we did it with no money, and the idea was to sort of take it and shop it around
Mhm.
and see if anyone would be interested. And I went to the American film market with it, which was online that year because it was still COVID going on. I just sat in like a digital room for hours, like nothing's going on.
Yeah.
So it kind of killed that idea, and I was like, well, screw it. I'll just make it into a book, and we'll see where it goes from there. And now we're on part 7.
It's amazing. I remember reading your first kind of like draft where you're like, I'm just going to turn these into actually, and I'm just super excited. I was just like, this stuff's hilarious. And it's hard to pick favorites. I really like 2 because there's a lot of humor in these, a lot of violence, but then there's also, there's some dark character stuff, and 2 is still kind of like
2's the darkest.
It stuck with me.
Yeah,
that might be my favorite still.
Because when you first meet the comedian, you don't know just how broken he is.
No,
right? Even in the short film we didn't know how broken he didn't even have a backstory. He was just like, well, he just travels around. He he does a show for food, does a little song and dance, and walks away with a bean.
Yeah,
a
bean dick maybe if he's lucky enough.
I don't know about that.
Arnold and Arnold. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great. It's post-apocalyptic. I'm gonna actually read a passage from one of them here in a bit.
Nice.
And then, yeah. So I think that's where we're at. We'll check out a selection from One Night Stand at the End of the World. Which one, I don't know yet, but it'll be one of them. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about some of our favorite post-apocalyptic movies.
Beautiful. There was one more thing I wanted to say about One Night Stand.
Yeah.
Is that maybe it's because I know you, or it's because I've read a lot of different stuff by you, but you really come through in this one.
Oh,
I don't know if that's a compliment or if that just means you're a psychopath, but
I think when I was talking to my fans, my 4 or 5 fans were like, I was like, yo, you guys got to check this out. I wrote this thing. And they're like, yeah, more zombie books. Give me more zombie books. And I was like, well, it's not a zombie book.
Yeah.
But it is the most like me out of anything I've written.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I seem very professional and clean cut and just very nice and kind. But I'm kind of a weirdo. Right? So these are definitely weird. I classify them as weird. I would put them in sort of the bizarro spectrum of the writing worlds because I am, in addition to just having weird characters, I'm also talking about ideas and themes, satire, sort of ripping on the things that are wrong in our world right now, which is there's so much wrong in our world right now. So even though it's post-apocalyptic, our real world is reflected in there, and it's easily, if you want to know what I think about the world, you read this series, you're going to have a pretty good idea of how I think.
You sure will.
In these. So yeah. So I think we've been talking for a while. I think we've got to do a little commercial. We got to pay some bills.
We got to do it. It's the necessary evil. Well, it depends on the product, I suppose.
Yeah.
Jackie Plunge here to ask you, are you ready for now? 17 of today's hottest loafs in one shower-inducing collection. Wipe into another dimension. Smash it down the drain. With Bad Bunny, Carrie Underwood, Gunna, Travis Scott, Luke Combs, Luke Bryan, Luke Grimes, some other asshole named Luke, and Luke, and more. Now that's what I call shit. This is the music that keeps plumbers in business, and me for that matter, because if it wasn't shit, I wouldn't be here on my proverbial knees selling it now. Now delivers nothing but the biggest shits you crave, but in order to get them, you have to call now. Just text or DM TURD and enjoy the sonic stench of diatonic diarrhea now.
All right, so we're back. I'm going to do a reading from my post-apocalyptic series, One Night Stand at the End of the World. This is book 2 in the series, and there's just a section I'd like to share with you so you get an idea of, my own crazy brand of the apocalypse here. So here we go. Lost my page. Perfect. Here we go. Found it. Amazing. So in this section, the comedian is stumbling around the waist. He's basically losing his mind. He's on the heels of someone. He's tracking him down and following through the waste because this guy has something he wants, but we don't quite know what it is yet. And he finds a shack in the middle of nowhere and checks it out. So here we go. This chapter was called Ramen Shaman. Though we didn't think it was possible, the interior of the shack was smaller than it looked from the outside. The boards were so gray as to be almost white, and he thought if he reached out to touch them, they would crumble to dust. He sat cross-legged, patchouli style, on the ground. Across from him, the man did the same. His host had insisted he leave Side Splitter outside, and he had done so, though he felt naked without it. The snake's corpse sat between them, within easy reach of either man. Been a while since anyone came through the sands. I'm looking for a man. Well, it ain't gonna be me. I tried that once. Might be for some people, but it's not for me. No, not like to date. I'm looking for a specific man. Like I said, ain't no one been through here in a while. He would have been of medium height, has a face that seems attractive at first, but then you realize he's actually pretty ugly when you spend any time with him. Loves to gamble. Oh yeah, that guy. He come through here about a week ago. Then the handsome lad came later. You just said no one's been here in a while. Well, a while is pretty relative, not very specific at all. Speaking of relatives, did the second man look like he could have been a relative of the first? I don't know. I'm blind. Is that why you live out in the middle of nowhere? Huh? This ain't Atlanta? Are you fucking with me? He's crazy. Just eat the snake and leave, Audrey said. Nope. Last time I could see, I was in Atlanta. Well, this isn't Atlanta. Where is it? I don't know. It's all relative these days. Yes, I do believe they were relatives. Did you talk to them, these men? The man scraped a hand across his stubbled jaw and said, Yeah, well, I talked to the first one, but he gambled me out of my last jug of water. Been waiting to go up to the store for a while. When the other man come around, I didn't feel like getting gambled out of my last treasure, so I laid low and let him pass. The comedian's ears perked up. A treasure? The man smiled at him, his yellow teeth shining in the firelight. Smoke filled the cabin, escaping through 100 different exit points in the rickety walls. Suddenly the man stood, and the comedian fought the urge to reach for his knife. Scrabbling to a corner of the shack, the man began digging in the loose soil. When he turned around, he held out a plastic-wrapped fortune. Is that soy sauce flavor? The blind man smiled at him and gave an easy nod. He held the package with the reverence of a holy man holding a sacred text. Squatting next to the fire, the comedian's mouth watered. He would chop off a finger just to have the sauce packet inside. He could live for a week off that one block of ramen. You want some of this, the blind man said. I don't have anything valuable enough to offer for that. A man is a fortune unto himself. He wants sex, Audrey said. The comedian, in silent agreement, waited for the man to make his move. You have more value than you know. I'm a comedian, the most worthless thing in the world. But you're also a human. You've seen things. You've lived. I've been in my shack for years, waiting to share this ramen with someone worthy of it. Years? You can't have been here for years. The man's yellow-toothed smile went crooked. You don't know, do you? Don't know what? About the world. There's not much to know. Your time is your time. My time is my time. What seems an hour to you is a year for me. Already I've known you for months. Know you better than my own brother. Bless his soul. Months. Ha! I'm sorry about your loss. Do you want to share it with me? The comedian suddenly had the urge to rise and leave. His head spun and the smoke from the fire seemed different, as if something extra floated among the charred wood particles. I'll share the ramen, but my loss is mine. I knew you'd say that. What am I going to say next? You're going to leave. Ha! I'm planning on staying right here. But then you'll leave. The blind man patted the package of ramen. Come, we cook the snake, sprinkle its juices over the top of the ramen, and wait for it to soften. The comedian pulled his knife free and sliced the snake into chunks, while the blind man speared the chunks with a sharpened stick, his hands moving with a surety that made the comedian question if the man could see or not. When the snake chunks were spitted, he set the stick over the fire, and the flames and smoke set about purifying the meat. While we wait, I would offer you a gift. Suspicion warred within the comedian's chest. Over the years, he had met many strange people in his travels, people who had cracked. His brain told him the blind man was one of these people, broken and sad, most likely dangerous. How pathetic. Broken people disgusted him. Just get better already. But his heart told him to stay a while, enjoy the man's company. What gift would that be? In the past, I was a seer, a psychic. With the crystal ball and everything? The man shook in a silent chuckle. It is as you say, though the crystal ball was entirely for show. For those who came to know me, all I needed was a flame, a fire, and I could tell the future. The comedian rolled his eyes. The wasteland was filled with many strange things, but psychic powers were not one of them. He began to believe that maybe being a comedian wasn't the most worthless thing in the world. He might be a smidge above a blind psychic in the grand scheme of things. I sense your doubt. I can hear you when you roll your eyes. I wasn't. It's okay. It was not unexpected. I am a psychic after all. The blind man pulled the stick from the fire and set about squeezing the snake chunks over the ramen. Small spots of grease and cooked blood dotted its surface, certainly not enough to turn the ramen from dried, crunchy noodles into soft, scrumptious ones, but it was better than nothing. Continuing, the blind man said, I ask that you let me fulfill my destiny. What destiny is that? What good is a fortune teller with no fortune to tell but his own? As comedian, he understood completely. If there were no people, the comedian would just be a man, living out his days on earth, fearing the day he would die and telling jokes to the air. You want to tell my fortune? I thought you'd never ask. This guy is going to kill you and wear your face skin as underwear, Audrey said. Don't listen to the doll, the man said. The comedian's jaw dropped open. You can hear Odd? No, I am deaf, but you can hear her. Will you let me tell your fortune? The comedian nodded. Then listen to my tale, my friend, for it is the tale of yourself, the tale of the world. Without warning, the blind man threw a handful of sandy soil on the fire, dousing it immediately. The cabin transformed into a funhouse of shadows, and the smoke from the fire hung between them, mixing with the smell of roasting desert snake. The blind man's eyes rolled into the back of his head, and his jaw fell open, exposing an impossibly large mouth. Even though his massive maw didn't move, a voice emanated from deep within the man's chest. The east is death. The Swedish cannot be trusted. The lone rock breaks. Those that would kill will save. Time will wrap around you like a cocoon, and in this shell you will change and heal and emerge not as a butterfly, but as a moth, its wings tattooed with the image of death's head. This is the future. 1,000 million choices led you here, but the road away contains but a few branches as the river of your life flows to your destiny. Will you take them all with you, or will you make the sacrifice when the time comes? This is the choice of your life. With a small harump, the comedian said, I choose to take everyone with me. The blind man's eyes rolled back down, brown, unseeing. His gaping jaw closed, and he asked, What did I say? I can't remember it all. What do you mean you can't remember it all? Well, if I knew there was going to be a test, I would have taken some fucking notes. I offer you this gift, and you spit on it. Oh, come on, don't be like that, blind guy. My name is not Blind Guy. Sheesh, if I knew you were going to be like this, I would have said no to the whole fortune-telling thing. Is everything a joke to you? What are you, my wife? The blind man sniffed. The snake is ready. Eat and get out. What about that ramen? What ramen? When the comedian looked again, the ramen had disappeared. Where'd it go? I put it away an hour ago when I learned you were an ungrateful cuss of a man. This is the way the world went in the wasteland. One minute you'd be sitting there pretending you were civil and still capable of holding a conversation, and the next, you'd be ready to stab a man in the heart over some ramen. If he wasn't blind, which he still had his doubts about, the comedian would have executed the man right there for crimes against humanity, namely the comedian. But the shaman had shown him kindness, even read his fortune. Something about a river, rocks. With greedy hands, the blind man pulled the sizzling skewer of snake chunks off the spit. The comedian offered his knife to the man, handle first. Here, take my knife. You'll burn your fingers. With the surety and confidence of someone with sight, the blind man nodded and reached out for the blade. His fingers wrapped around the handle, and the ramen shaman speared a chunk of snake meat off the stick with the point of rib tickler. His bearded cheeks puffing out, the seer blew on the meat to cool it. As he did, a thought dawned on the comedian, and a moment of panic washed over him. Wait, he called. But it was too late. The man popped a chunk of snake flesh in his mouth, his yellow teeth scraping across the blade. The blind man chewed the snake, chomping on it, the sounds of flesh mauled by teeth filling the air between them. It's hot, he managed to say between chomps, sucking in air to help cool the meat. The blind man's eyes grew wide, and he spit the meat out upon the sandy soil. Poison, the man shouted, pointing his finger in accusation at the comedian. I forgot to clean the blade, he said, knowing it was a poor apology. He watched as the seer clutched at his throat with his hands, the desert snake's venom working its way into the blind man's body. Choking sounds filled the hut, and the comedian waited, his soul boiling in his own guilt. As the fortune teller rolled on the ground, fighting to force air past his swollen throat and into his lungs, the comedian picked up his blade and studied it. Rib tickler had been his favorite sidearm for years. The metal was tarnished black where you could see it. Over the years, it had tickled more than ribs. It had tickled brains, hearts, lungs. These were not crimes one easily forgot, and to remind himself of this burden, he had refused to clean the blade ever since. No. Now his blade was poison. Rather than wiping off, he stuffed it into the sheath, even as the blind man convulsed in the shack. He felt bad about the seer, had totally forgotten about the snake venom on his blade, but there was nothing he could do about it now. When the blind man stopped moving, his eyes bugged out beyond belief, the comedian stood and said, I'm sorry. Without even taking a bite of the snake meat, he turned and fled from the small shack, knowing only that he wanted to escape, to get away from the scene of his latest crime. It was not a new experience for him. He stepped out into the desert air, noting the sun was only a little way past where it had been when he had entered the shack. It seemed the man had been crazy, and time had marched on at a normal pace. This only made him feel the teensiest bit better, and though he wanted to run away from the cabin as fast as possible, he forced himself to walk at a leisurely pace through the small path that led between the two rounded hills. With his head down, he walked, trying to recall the poor fortune teller's words. It was the least he could do. She was so good at telling fortunes. Why didn't he know about the knife? Audrey asked. Shut up, Odd. The comedian stumbled into the desert hills, another taken life weighing him down. And that's it. And then for those that are like confused, like who the heck is this odd person? You didn't mention any odd person. That is his doll head friend that hangs from his jacket, who speaks to him in his head. So yeah, there we go. So that is the Ramen Shaman from One Night Stand in the Waste, book 2 of the series. And there we go. Thanks for listening. All right, we're back. That was a thrilling reading. I think I did a good job.
I would say it was at least an 8 out of 10.
That's pretty good. So we're back. We're going to be talking about our top 10 post-apocalyptic movies. We say top 10 because that's what's popular out in the SEO world, but ours actually goes to 11.
In case you were wondering, where do you go once you reach 10? There's nowhere to go. Most of these blokes, they just go 1 through 10, 1 through 10. You know, ours goes to 11. We've got that extra bit for you. Why stop at something when you can go for another something?
Got to have extra something. So again, this is our post-apocalyptic movies, which are not zombie movies. They're not dystopian. And they're not straight apocalyptic, which we didn't talk about before, but some people get that confused as well, where an apocalyptic movie that's when it's actively happening, right? So like that new Quiet Place movie they put out where there's the cat and they're running away, that's actively happening. That's not a post-apocalyptic movie. That is apocalyptic. So none of those
That's
are
apocalyptic.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of different things here. So let's go ahead and start with number 11. Number 11.
Let's start with 11.
Let's start with 11. The Postman barely makes the list. For those that haven't seen it, it's about a postman. Well, actually, he's kind of like a lot like the comedian, right? He's an actor, who just kind of sucks, and he's just drifting around, and he finds some mail in an outfit, and then he starts bringing back civilization, because that's what you need for civilization. You need letters, right?
That's exactly what you need.
You need letters. Kevin Costner, probably one of his best roles. The movie's 3 hours long for some reason. Doesn't need to be 3 hours long. That's probably why it's way down at 11 on the list, to be honest.
Well, they had to get Tom Petty in there.
You had to get Tom Petty.
It was originally 2 hours and 37 minutes, but they had to get Tom Petty.
Right. Anyways, did you like The Postman?
I did. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
And I do think that's one of his best roles. It's super entertaining. I wish I wrote down his name, because I forgot. But the main villain, he's
Will Patton.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he plays a good, sinister, creepy bastard.
Dude, that guy's good because he can be like super likable and a total creep at the same time. He could play any role.
He's great.
I loved him in Armageddon. Like, it's an often overlooked role, but as like that dad that was just like, he's ruined his life.
Yeah.
Just working for Bruce Willis out there, which is what happens when you work for Bruce Willis, apparently.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, that's a great actor.
Yeah.
So we'll go into number 10, The Omega Man. You ever see the Omega Man?
I did. Good flick.
Yeah. So this is Charlton Heston as the last man in the world. It's based upon Richard Matheson's, or is it Christopher Matheson? I think it's Richard Matheson's I Am Legend. So it's a version of that. You've probably seen the Will Smith version. There's a Vincent Price version called Last Man on Earth.
Oh.
And then there's the Omega Man. But I like the Omega Man because it's got Charlton Heston, who's an upgrade over Will Smith. That's a fact. And he's taken out like groovy vampires. They're just groovy. They're mystical. And
they're groovy vampires.
They're groovy vampires. It was filmed in the 70s. They wear like these muumuus and they walk around and they're just very groovy.
Yeah.
Everyone's cool, man, except for Charlton Heston, who was just this ball-busting jerk who was living in this weird fantasy world of, hey, I'm the only one around. He can also run a 3-minute and 50-second mile. No joke. You remember that part in the movie?
Yeah.
He's like running down this abandoned block and he's like, 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Like to see someone beat that.
Yeah.
Like a total creep.
World class. Like,
all on his own.
Yeah.
Still like giving everyone else a hard time.
Yeah.
Everyone that's dead.
I'd like to see someone beat that. That's who he kind of is in real life too. Well,
when he was alive.
Yeah.
You think so? I don't know what he was like.
At least what he portrayed to the public.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
You ain't gonna pry my Vienna sausage from my cold dead hands or something like that. I don't know what it was.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about Omega Man? The Omega Man?
I think for the time it came out, especially, what a great deal there. It was a good.
I was watching the other day. It still holds up.
Yeah.
Are the vampires groovy? Yes, they're a little groovy.
They're groovy.
That's
a great.
They should probably have roller skates on. They'd just be like
groovy vampires
doing some disco music while they run around and try and take out. What the hell was his name? I don't remember his name, but he's the last man on Earth.
I think it was.
And he acts like it. I can't remember.
Wow, I can't either.
Yeah, I
think it was Todd.
Do you really even need a name, Todd?
When you're the Omega Man, nah.
You don't even. You're like, I'm the Omega Man. I'm the last man.
Names are for identification, and no one else is asking.
Yeah, no one else is telling you.
Oh.
Let's see. What else? Let's go to number 9. Scott's trying to look up this information. He's our tech wizard. He's like, let me block off your list, bro. While I search up this dude's name and the Omega Man. And I don't know if he's even doing it. Oh, he just gave up.
What happened?
His face got all red and he gave up. Did you see that?
I did.
Classic Scott.
Wait, now it's blue. Scott, are you okay? Oh, that's just the lighting.
Here he goes, making it the Scott cast again. It's all about Scott.
It's all About
Scott.
yeah. Hey.
There it goes. Is it Carter?
Carter sounds like a good
Or was that his name
name
in
for
Planet
that
of the
character.
Apes? No, that wasn't his name in Planet of the Apes.
Ah.
What's that say? I don't know.
Why is he
What do you-
not in the front of the what the hell? It's like they know we're here trying to do something. There he is. Dr. Robert
Robert. Robert what?
Neville.
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 That's right.
Neville.
Oh,
Yeah.
I should have known. That's the character's name in the book. If I was going to have
That's a pretty popular name too for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I was going to have a top 10
Very well-known.
post-apocalyptic books list, which is just less popular, I Am Legend is number 3.
Mm.
But here, the movie adaptation is number 10 because it's very groovy.
Mm.
At number 9, some people might argue with this, and it's usually weirdos who just like style over substance. But I put
broccoli heads,
Mad
yeah.
Max Fury Road at number 9.
Good pick. Good choice. Yeah.
I mean, visually, it's outstanding. There's really cool stuff going on. The chase is wild throughout. It's just saturated with desert light. It would probably be higher up on the list if the names weren't so bad.
Like what?
You know, like you name a character Scrotus. You're just like, oh yeah, that's Scrotus over there. That's my kid, Scrotus. You named your kid Scrotus? Like, what's wrong with you? What type of world are we living in where you name your kid Scrotus? What was the main guy's bad name? Do you remember? It was something like, it was almost a name, but it's not actually a name.
I'm forgetting names today. I'm usually pretty good with names. It was almost like a wasn't it like a rank of some kind?
Yeah,
kind
it was
of
something like that. Scott's gonna look it up for us because our brains are just not working.
They're not.
If you want a little peek behind the curtain, it is the morning. No, it's the afternoon now. But I don't actually.
It's 6:30 a.m. and we're eating pizza and drinking.
It's 6:30 a.m. People are imbibing.
Is he? Oh yeah, and his right hand man. What is it? Rictus?
Rictus. Yeah.
Rictus erectus, dude.
Right? I'm saying the names are just awful.
Like who
Rictus
wrote this?
Erect-
We can add Onius, Inus, or Anus to just about anything and it becomes magical.
A
This-
gym bro, dude.
It's this guy that made the first Mad Max movies, and everyone there like didn't even have names. And now you're glad they didn't, right? Like Max had a name. No one even said it in the Road Warrior.
I like the people eater.
Everyone else is like he goes from in the first movie, like, oh, here's this
Silt. Scott's having a good time
that's
over here with
Slit,
these.
bro. That kid's name is Slit.
Oh, it is Slit?
One of the characters is named Slit.
Wow. Amazing. Miss Giddy, she's a good time at parties.
Um,
And then Judd Wild.
keep going, scroll down, keep going, keep going. Apparently, it just does it backwards and throws all the good names at the bottom. Okay,
Yeah, why is it going backwards?
just go to
today?
IMDb. That'll show you the top. Yeah, whenever I do that, don't use.
Oh,
this-
that's it? No, that's him right there.
Where?
Immortan Joe.
Immortan Joe. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got it. So Immortan Joe, right? What is Immortan? Like he's Joe, but he's Immortan. What does that mean?
I think he was trying to say it's like he's of the immortals. He's like Immortan. Kind of like
I'm Immortish.
Yeah.
Immortish
Like
Joe.
that. Mhm.
That's dumb. Anyways, that's why Bad Max Fury Road is at number 9, just because of the names.
It could have been 7 or 6, maybe.
No,
8?
maybe.
So it could have moved up
Maybe,
one
maybe
slot.
on your list, but I put it at number 9. They've all got weird like Latin names for some reason. It's the Australian Outback. There's Charlize Theron is Furiosa, and it's like, what are you mad about?
A lot of like
Seriously.
Scandinavian stuff, like Viking
Yeah,
kind of idea. Valhalla.
Bad Max isn't even in the movie. It shouldn't have even been called that. It should have just been called Furiosa to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, and he's just a bit character.
That's true. He's
There's
not
a
the focus.
He's
really.
highlighting a character called Toast the Knowing. Toast the Knowing. It's just bad. I don't know where they got these names from. Cheeto the Fraggle, the Fragile.
I like
Cheeto the
Fraggle.
Fraggle's better.
From now on, I'm going to say Fraggle. If someone's fragile, I'm going to call him Fraggle.
Fraggle Rock.
Dude, you're so
I'm so sick
Fraggle,
of
dude.
your fragility. That doesn't sound good. I'm going to stay away from that one. But yeah, stunning action sequences. The scale is huge of the chase. Now they've kind of got society broken into 3 cities, right? One makes bullets, one makes gas, and one makes water.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 things you need to live: bullets, gas, and water.
Yeah.
And it's got some great visuals to it. I have not seen the black and white version, but I feel like I would like it. They put out they call it chrome and black version.
Oh.
Okay. I don't know that it would change it spot on the list, but I bet visually it would kind of take some of that CGI glare off of it sometimes, because there is some of that in there.
Yeah.
Which kind of drags it down. Most of the other pieces on here are not so obvious with their CGI, but yeah. Let's talk about number 8.
I love number 8.
You know number 8. So
I think it's great.
Number 8's weird, right? I don't think it even did very well at the box office.
It didn't.
It's Reign of Fire, and this is starring Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale, who is not one of my favorite actors, but I guess people like him. But McConaughey is pretty hilarious in this. And the setup for this one is that we're in this world, and as it usually happens, some contractors messed up and they were digging too deep, and they uncovered dragons. And then the dragons come out and they just burn the world to toast. And now everyone's like living underneath the ground because dragons just don't care about us. Mm-hmm. And we have a tough time killing dragons, apparently.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
Yeah. Even with a tank. So this movie has great action sequences. The cast is great. It's a big budget movie.
Yeah.
The dragons are really done well for the time. Like I said, the CGI is pretty good. And there's some great effects in there. It's got some brutal moments.
Mm-hmm. It has kind of a medieval feel to it, even though it's modern times. That's what I really liked about the aesthetic and kind of the atmosphere was, and even McConaughey's crazy ass in that movie. He's like an super hard ass American special forces guy. But he's got this like awesome axe that he used. It's just, very cool movie.
Yeah, it's visceral. It's not like, some of these movies, like in Mad Max Fury Road, everyone's still got cool cars and they're running around, but the people in Reign of Fire have been stripped down to like the things they need to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it gets really into the nitty gritty of surviving in this world, where you can't go above, because if a dragon sees you, it's just gonna toast you and turn you into ash.
Yeah.
Yeah. And next on the list is kind of a weird one. I kind of felt weird about putting it on there because it could go dystopian. It definitely falls into the dystopian category. This movie is called Snowpiercer. And the premise of this movie is that the world got real cold, and so they put everyone on a train that goes around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the world's dead. You can't get out. You can't do nothing. And on this train, they've kind of developed a society where, there's people at the butt end of the train or really at the butt end of the train and bad things are happening.
No metaphor there. Well, I guess after the fact,
they're caboosing.
They're caboosing.
They're caboosing hard. If you don't like it, jump off the back of the caboose. Right?
Yeah.
And then the people that are living the high life up in the front seats.
Mm-hmm.
I count it as apocalyptic because the world is all dead except for everything on this train, which there's like thousands of people on this train. It's a long train.
It's like a huge ice age, right? Is that what?
Yeah.
Do they allude to that?
Yeah.
I've seen it a couple times, and I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's some kind of like massive climate shift, kind of like fucked up the whole world, right?
End of the world event, and their solution was, let's ride around on this train forever until things get better.
Yeah.
And when you do that for a couple of centuries, things get weird and sort of
they do
sort of twisted, right? Their food is like crushed up bugs and roaches and things, and
one man
just shape it into food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One man's train is another man's party.
Train party?
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
You
It's
have?
a very common. I had a T-shirt like that.
You did?
When I was in no, I didn't. That's a terrible idea.
Anyways.
Number 7. That was number 7. Snowpiercer. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Pretty good. They made a TV show out of it. I didn't watch it. I was like, I already saw the movie. Why would I watch a TV show?
It was.
I hate when they make TV shows out of movies or movies. Yes, TV shows out of movies.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I already see the movie.
I feel like they're just money grabs.
Yeah.
The
Like-
Lethal Weapon TV show they made, I was like, nah, nope, not going to do it.
I didn't watch that either.
No, I tried for like a minute and I couldn't.
I'm trying to think if there's a TV show that I liked that was made out of a movie. And I just can't.
Ooh, we should try because it's going to be very difficult to make a top 10, top 11 list of TV shows that were made out of movies.
I don't think there is one. I guess you could make the least bad 10.
That's what I mean.
It's not even top 10. It's like the least bad 10. I guess they're the top ones at that point.
Right.
Right. All right. Number 6 is The Book of Eli, which is probably the most technically well done of the movies on my list. It's big budget. It's big cast. You're talking Denzel Washington. You're talking Gary Oldman. You're talking other people whose names I don't remember right now. And it's set in definitely a post-apocalyptic world. He's wandering the world, beating up, toothless cannibals and trying to charge his iPod because this guy's got his priorities straight, man.
He
He's like,
does.
I need some music right now.
He knows what he needs.
So he's walking around just looking to get his iPod charged. That's not a euphemism. It's for real. He's trying to actually charge his iPod. And he wanders into this old West town and he's doing favors and Gary Oldman's a creep. Because he plays a great creep, right?
He's doing favors. Gary Oldman's a creep,
He's got to do quests.
Yeah.
He has to, he walks into town. He's like, I don't want to do a quest. I just want my iPod charged. And no one will let him just charge his iPod. They want to drag him into all this drama in town.
And the cool thing about the character, Eli, kind of, whatever his name is he nameless in it?
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm not good at names. I'm just like Denzel Washington. That's when I see Denzel Washington in a movie, I'm like, that's Denzel Washington. I don't care what they call him.
Because obviously,
look at Denzel. He's going to kill some people. Like I say that every time.
Like it's a Bible thing, but it's like I can't remember if he's actually named Eli also.
I think maybe he is.
But you wonder, he is.
Yeah.
You wonder if he actually has powers or if he's protected by the Lord the whole time because the way they slightly hint at it in certain aspects, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah,
you're wondering the whole time.
Out of all those movies, this one has like the best twist in it. Like I didn't really see it coming. I'm like notorious for ruining movies. Where I'm like, I got my writer's brain. Like, what is that movie? The Village. I saw a trailer for The Village. M. Night Shyamalan. Remember that one?
Sure.
And that was, they're like, ooh, look at this world. It's weird. They tried to pass that off as post-apocalyptic too.
Yeah.
Didn't make the list. But I saw the trailer. I was like, they're not really in a fake world. They're just pretending. And like, I went and watched it. I was like, I knew it. Like from the trailer, like it just gave it away. I was like, oh, terrible.
You're just too clever.
I'm too smart.
That's what it is, folks.
Yeah, I can't help it. Who else we got in there? Tom Waits is in there. He charges iPods in there. Ray Stevenson, rest in peace.
Yeah, shit.
His movie Outpost is awesome. That's a good.
He's great. I like him in anything.
Lower tier zombie flick. Did you like The Punisher?
Absolutely, that was my favorite Punisher.
Warzone. That was the best one. That's the one that captures like, oh yeah, I'm just a brutal killing machine.
That one actually did have the feel of like if you.
Like the comic books.
It was exactly like the Punisher comics, like the '90s ones.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great movie.
Yeah, I connected that one too.
Jennifer Beals, super hot. Watch her in anything, right, guys?
I guess I don't know. It sounds like you're objectifying women, but okay.
I did this time, and I should probably apologize.
Yeah, you apologize to her. And there's cannibalism. That's always a plus in a post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, because it's necessary sometimes.
All right. Can you bring back up my list? Oh, Scott's got a question. Get out of here.
Okay.
Thomas
What
Jane
the-
is not a. Thomas Jane is the best Daredevil. I like Thomas Jane. Don't get me wrong. His role in The Expanse
He's
is
charming,
awesome.
but he's no brutal Punisher like this guy.
No, he's just like, hey, here's like some soccer dad who's really mad. Like that's Thomas Jane. Like he's not the Punisher, dude. The Punisher is imposing. He's scary as hell, and he's the Punisher. Thomas Jane's not the Punisher.
Thomas Jane did a pretty good job. He did a pretty good job. And before I saw Ray Stevens' Punisher, I was like, that's a pretty good movie.
I would take Dolph Lundgren over Thomas Jane.
Oh,
Dude, that movie is awesome. Dolph Lundgren rocks. He's big. He prays naked in front of her shrine. That's kind of key for the Punisher. That's big in the comics, right?
that
Naked
part I'm
shrine
not quite
thing.
sure about. I don't know where they got that because I can't remember
I
that
think Dolph
happening.
Lundgren
Did that
just likes to
happen?
pray naked in front of a shrine. I think he did it in Showdown in Little Tokyo too.
Did you say Val Kilmer?
No, I said Dolph Lundgren.
You did?
Yeah.
Did I hear Val Kilmer? Am I losing my mind?
Well, you asked me that. I assume you heard it.
Wow.
Okay. So Scott's this is why Scott doesn't have his top 10 list up here because he's talking about how Thomas Jane's the best Punisher and it's laughable. Who's the other guy? The Walking Dead guy.
I want people to
Like, that
leave
guy's
in the
pretty good.
comment section what you guys think because this debate, this needs to be settled.
It goes Stevenson, Lundgren, Lundgren, the other guy from The Walking Dead,
Oh, Bernthal?
John Bernthal, and then Thomas
Over-
Jane, Thomas
Over
Jane.
Lundgren? Okay, for me, Scott, what's yours? What's your 4? Do your 4 Punishers.
Thomas Jane, Bernthal, Stevenson, Lundgren.
Stevenson is the 3rd, dude. Have you seen Warzone? Oh. All right. Clock's ticking. I'm going with Ray at the top. Jane and Bernthal are tied. Bernthal's probably beats him a little bit. So maybe Bernthal right above. The only thing about Bernthal's Punisher is that he was too like loose cannon, angry, modern, just like tortured guy, and he wore it on his sleeve and with passion. The Punisher's not really like that. He like lets his
Like he's too emotional for you.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to relate to
He has a-
modern
he has a
times and people
simmering
that have
type of
dealt with
rage.
like combat.
Yeah.
So I understand they were trying to make it relevant to people who actually suffer, who have like
PTSD.
done like, things that are tough for people. But I'm like, man, part of me though, when it's movies and it's, like this like fantasy world, it's like, I don't know, like at least it's still not real. Like the Punisher's not real. So, why not be more like the character in the comic books? I don't know. I appreciated what they did, and he's a great actor. But I think, Ray Stevenson, Jane, Bernthal, and then Lundgren at the bottom.
Garbage. All right. Let's move on. You guys are angering me. Your incorrectness is angering me.
Like Bernthal's Punisher.
No, like Dolph Lundgren's Punisher. Watch
Oh.
out. I will be naked in front of the shrine in a second, and that's going to be your fault.
You promise?
Number 5, Steakland. Either of you gents seen Steakland? All right.
Is this the one about steak?
Steakland. What did you think I
Steakland.
said? Snakeland?
No, I thought you said steak, but I was
Okay.
thinking steak.
Like you like thick slabs of meat.
Yeah, have you ever tried Benedetti's tube steak?
I have not. I've heard about it though.
Steak so smooth it comes out of a tube.
Benedetti Brothers' latest product, Tube Steak. Steak so smooth you can squeeze it out of a tube.
No, I don't think I would try it. So let me tell you about Steakland. I'll give you a little background on it. Like it's an underappreciated movie, but for those who have watched it, it's awesome. So the director's name is Jim Mickle. He's gone on to do some pretty cool movies. The first one I ever noticed him on was a movie called Mulberry Street. It was an apocalyptic movie where people started like turning into rats. Like there's a rat infestation, and it's got this boxer guy who you'd love. He's just like a tough guy who like runs through the streets like clocking people.
Nice.
And that's like your bread and butter. You're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
like you could have been this guy. Fingerless Gloves while he's clocking people. Mulberry Street, fantastic movie.
Oh, I'm checking it out for
Jim
sure.
Mickle made
Gotta make a
this
note of
movie
that.
Stakeland, which is Nick D'Amici. That's the guy. He plays the character Mister in Stakeland, who I believe he might still have fingerless gloves in this movie too. I mean, the guy is a big fan of fingerless gloves. I respect him for that.
Hey, that's right up my alley.
You know, when we did One Night Stand, there were so many fingerless gloves jokes.
Yeah.
And you can't trust someone with fingerless gloves. Just so you know.
No.
If you see someone with fingerless gloves, you walk the other way. I don't care who.
Well,
it
if you
is.
value your life,
if you
or
value
your
your
or
life,
your possessions,
or your own bodily safety,
yeah,
you don't know what they're gonna do.
No.
Could be murders, could be other things. They're just bad people.
Yeah.
And so Stakeland is the tale of the world's dead. Vampires are taken over there, but they're kind of like mindless, sort of thoughtless vampires. And he just travels around like a total loner. It's a lot like One Night Stand, but he ain't trying to make people laugh. He's just like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna kill some things. He's got his own tortured past, and he takes this kid under his wing and starts trying to teach him how to survive in this world. And they travel around. They go to different settlements where it's like, we got our walls. We're trying to keep the vampires out.
yeah.
And he's like, I don't care. Put some gas in my ride. I'm going to go out there and kill some people again. And it's very brutal. And
Cool.
he kind of goes from being this loner to having a family. And that doesn't go well because it's that type of world, right? It's very bleak, which I think is true to post-apocalyptic movies. If you have too much hope, it just doesn't feel right.
That's a good point.
That's one of the reasons the Post was down at 11, because it lacks the bleakness. It's like, yeah, okay, things went bad, but you seem all right.
That's true. They're so
Like,
positive.
You're playing your little honky tonk music in your fun people club, and
Yeah.
they want your seed.
They want your seat, or you can wave the look. I remember the days of old. The
Yeah.
postman.
Yeah,
That's
Well,
all it took for you.
that's all it
people?
took.
Really?
Yeah, you could have gone out on a horse on your own and be like, hey,
Yeah.
what's up?
Waved around a flag.
But
and
they're
a-
like, no, they needed a postman to come along.
Oh,
to do it.
yeah. a
But it's
postman.
the Postman is very upbeat. Stakeland is super dark. It's bleak. The visuals are fantastic. Jim Mickle does a great job with framing. He gets great performances out of his cast, and it's really an underrated masterpiece.
Nice.
There's a sequel to it, not as good, still all right, but Stakeland is the steak takes the cake.
I got to nice.
Nice.
That's a nice chef's kiss, if you will. I wanted to ask Scott a question. With your recent can't speak. When you were trying to do the apocalyptic thing, and it's real hard to say it because it's a weird word. When you saw the actor Brett Kunkel, did you read it as Knuckle? Because I did. Like right when I looked at it, it looked like
For people who don't know what Nick's talking about, Scott had
bring it up.
the cast up for Stakeland,
Brent
and
Kunkel.
it's got their faces and their names, and Nick's throwing out some dyslexia here.
It's almost impossible to look at that as not Knuckle.
I see Kunkel. I don't,
You
my
know?
j-
Yeah,
my
it's
job
a-
is reading words and making sure
That's
I
true.
see them correctly. I don't.
Hey,
Yeah, I see.
well, some of us don't. Some of us don't read good. Okay.
I see Brett Knuckle.
Yeah, it's Knuckle, right?
That's Kunkel.
That's
Brett
Kunkel.
Kunkel.
For all you Kunkles out there.
Is this guy a Sonic guy?
I'm ready to move on.
Okay.
I'm ready for
Let's do it.
I'm ready for number 4.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Well, we're at 4 already. Nice.
Yeah, we were flying. All right, number 4 is sort of a weird one.
Classic though.
Some people, they made a TV show out of this one too.
He did.
Yeah, they made a TV show out of this one. So, number 4 is Logan's Run, which is a totally groovy 70s movie as well. I think it's 70s. But basically, in Logan's Run, was that 75 or 70?
No, you had it right. 76. Yeah.
Logan's Run is the tale of a dude he's called a Sandman. And in this society, everyone gets to live to be like, I don't know, like 23 or something, right? And then they get to go on what is called carousel, right? There you're like, oh, you're lucky, you get to go on carousel or you'll be reborn. And basically, people just float up to the sky and explode in sparks. And everyone's like, yay. They all watch it like, oh, they're reborn. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And
It's a weird one.
so it turns out some people don't want to go on carousel. They want to keep living,
Yeah,
apparently, because they're selfish.
that's what it is.
Because they're selfish.
They don't think about the
Selfish
others,
little
man.
jerks. And Michael York, who plays Logan, is a Sandman, and he's getting up there in age, and he's like, yo, I don't know about this. Do we really get? He starts questioning society, and with this girl, Jessica, after they go on their like swinger date. Do you remember? Do you remember the movie?
Oh, yeah.
You-
Yeah.
They go on this swinger date where they just change channels and they're like, "Yo, let's have a party," and they throw a smoke bomb in the air, and that's their party, and they get all high on drugs. I mean, it's a terrible life. It sounds very empty and meaningless.
That's
But
my
anyways,
kind of life.
she don't want to
What?
die. They're going on the run, and they escape this place and discover that their whole life is basically a lie, and they're just there to reproduce and keep things going.
Yeah.
Um,
I've always liked the name Jessica. Anyways.
yeah. So Michael York and Jessica are just running around. They encounter an evil robot named Box, which is always hilarious. Because it's one of the worst looking robots you've ever seen.
Yeah, it is, dude.
It's not groovy enough for the 70s. It's very 50s like joke robot. It's like the idea of what you think a robot would look like in the 1950s. And it's bad.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's a fantastic movie. There's lots of cool stuff in there. They like to take turkey basters and spray smoke in people's face to knock them out.
Yeah, it's fun. Like the movie, the way I would describe it is just a fun kind of little trip. It's a fun little trip.
Yeah.
For the younger crowd, Michael York is Basil for the younger crowd. He's from
What the hell's Basil?
from
Is that Harry Potter? Is that a Harry Potter reference?
No.
Scott's coming in with Harry Potter
It's from the
references?
Man of Mystery, baby.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
bit nutty.
No one ever wants an Austin Powers impression. No one. How dare you? Scott. Can you put up the application for the podcast co-host? I'm gonna need a new one. This one's doing Austin. This one's broken. It's doing Austin Powers.
Wait, okay,
impressions.
I'll do one quick.
No, you won't.
Can I do a Basil impression then?
Sure.
All right, but it has to start with Austin Powers. Real quick, he goes,
Oh,
it
you
tastes
tricked
like
me.
shit. That's because it is shit, Austin.
Wow,
That's my favorite part of the whole movie.
I'm not surprised. Logan's Run. They made a TV show. I never watched it. Do you ever see an episode of Logan's Run, the TV show?
Now that you mention it, I think I did see at least the trailer, and then like I looked in for a second and was like, because a movie like that's real tough to remake you have to be a real like just big fan of it all and just be like, oh, I want to see what this would be like in modern and like with modern tech, and even though it's the same era.
No, the TV show was like 1980s. It wasn't like modern.
Wasn't it? I thought it was super recent,
No,
like mid 2000s or something.
I don't think so.
I've got
I
all
could
my
be, I could be
stuff,
wrong, but I think they
know.
made it soon after the show. They're like, oh, Logan's Run made a bunch of money. I bet people want to see a whole TV show about it.
You piece of shit. Scott's Craiglisting new co-hosts right now. He's the one that brought up Basil in the first place.
This one's broken. Keeps doing Austin Powers voices. All right, number 3. I feel like if anyone was going to give me a hard time about my things on this list, it would probably be number 3.
I'll tell you what, I'm not going to be someone to give
You're
you
not
a
gonna be
hard
that
time
guy?
on
Okay.
this one. No.
Okay.
Because this is a great flick, man.
So number 3 is Cyborg.
Yes.
1988, 89, somewhere. There's a director named Albert Pune who makes exceptionally awful movies. He did the 1990 like Captain America movie. Did you ever see that
Holy shit! Well, I
He did-
loved it as a kid.
thing? Wow, you loved that movie as a kid.
That's because the red guy,
The Red Skull.
Yeah, he was pretty good in that.
It's a bad movie.
It's not good.
I'd rather watch The Rocketeer. That's how bad that is.
Jennifer Connelly though.
And he was in line to make a Spider-Man movie and a Masters of the Universe movie. And they were like, I think they
Yeah.
were like, nope, I don't know. I don't know if we want to trust you with this, Albert Pune. And so those collapsed, but the sets had been built. And so he took those sets and cobbled together this script.
I didn't know that. That's really.
Yeah. And they came up with this movie Cyborg. And the premise of Cyborg is this. The world's dead. There's diseases. People are basically walk around. You can kill whoever. There's people are mutated and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's just a bad time, right? It's good post-apocalyptic badness. Mercenary Gibson Rickenbacker.
In a future beset by chaos and violence, mercenary Gibson Rickenbacker, Jean-Claude Van Damme, is charged with a mission that could change everything, protecting beautiful cyborg Pearl Prophet. She holds the cure for a deadly disease that could destroy humanity and must get it to
So she's got this cure in her head. She's a cyborg, and they take her. They got to get her to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm doing?
You're doing Fender.
Fender.
Go to hell. Been there.
So basically, I don't know why we went through all that thing. Jean-Claude Van Damme has to get a cyborg to Atlanta. And the whole time, this gang of psychopaths is just chasing him across these wastelands.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all.
That's
it is.
the
That's
plot.
the whole movie.
Yeah, that's
They run through sewers. He does the splits in the sewers.
Yeah. Deborah Richter shows her boobs at the campsite.
lot of spin kicks.
Yeah.
A lot of spin kicks. He's the last gunslinger. He has a gun with like 3 bullets in it. And the barrel rotates for some reason because that's very practical. You rotate the whole barrel and not the chamber instead.
Well, they figured it out in the future that if you rotate the barrel, there's less misfires, even though revolvers don't really misfire.
Yeah. So it's a fantastic movie. It's a lot of violence. There's almost no dialogue in there, which is what you want when you're dealing with Jean-Claude Van Damme and the cast of characters that they assembled. The guy that plays Fender is just weird. I believe he might have also been War Child in Point Break, but I'm not sure. Do you remember that gang of surfers that were like, "Yo, we're gonna beat you up, Keanu Reeves"?
Holy fuck! I think it was
got
him.
on my
Dude.
way,
Okay,
bro.
Scott. If
I
you
could be
ever
totally
needed
wrong,
to
but
look something up and verify it, I think that would
If
be
there's 2 people that like look exactly like that, it's amazing. But he looked Point Break. Yeah, he was in Point Break too. And he's also in Nemesis. That's another Albert Pune movie. That's a nice cult classic that a lot of people haven't seen. Starring Olivier Grunier.
I miss Rutger Hauer, dude.
Rutger Hauer.
Yeah, I like some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Anything he's been in.
Anyways, Cyborg is up there. It's up there because of vibes. It's up there because I don't have to think too much when I'm watching it. It's got a lot of weirdness and fighting, and the characters are just well done, right? They did a great job just visually making it. There's some sequels that are out that are not worth your time or money. I'll say that much.
Cyborg Nemesis.
Do not watch other Cyborg movies. And yeah, that's number 3. What do you think of number 3?
You know what? I'm going to have to go with you on that, man. I think Cyborg, for all its shortcomings as far as, a put together product and quality, just based on, it's very entertaining. It's a cool aesthetic. I think Fender plays, he's somehow like scary but hilarious at the same time because it's so over the top, you know? And Van Damme is the main guy in it, just makes it better. I don't know. It's good.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's go on to number 2. If you like post-apocalyptic movies, like you love this movie. That's just a fact. It's The Road Warrior, or Mad Max 2 as it's called in some places.
My favorite of all the Max movies is this one.
Yeah. Now, some people might be wondering why the first Mad Max isn't on there, and that's because it's not actually a post-apocalyptic movie. It's still It's a dystopian falling
Good
apart
call,
movie.
because I was going to ask you why you didn't pick
Yeah.
that one. And
I mean,
now
I love the
it's on
original
my
Mad
list.
Max, but it's not on there. It's a dystopian.
I made a secret list.
The Road Warrior is like the cream of the crop when it comes to post-apocalyptic movies, because it's set the stage, it set the tone. Every movie that came afterwards was like, yo, how do we be like that? Because you've got a character who goes into the society. You've got this gang of just miscreants that are just trying to survive as well.
Mhm.
And it's really all about survival.
Yeah.
Right. It's not about like, yo, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like, I need gas to get from this place to that place. I need to live. And Mel Gibson, this is in his pre-crazy stage where we still liked him.
Yeah.
And visually, it's violent, it's brutal, it's unflinching, and the action scenes are just insane. They're insane. Like, they're better than Fury Road, and they had CGI. Their advances in stunt work are crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just better.
Yeah.
You know, in every single way. What do you think?
I have to agree with all that. Also, actor-wise, I'm trying to identify him. Is it Vernon Wells?
Vernon Wells plays Lord Humongous, I believe his name.
Oh, he
is.
does? Okay. I'm trying to think of
no,
the...
what's his name?
No, Humongous is the other guy.
Oh yeah, Vernon Wells is the guy with the butt cheeks cut out.
That's it. That's what I'm talking about. He was in Commando.
Yeah.
Hey, Joan, I'm not going to shoot you
When
between the
he was
eyes.
Bennett, right?
I'm going to shoot you between the balls. And then he, let off some steam, Bennett.
Yeah. Classic.
Pretty good stuff.
Classic. Cool. I don't think anyone can argue with like number 2.
You'd have to, if someone...
You could maybe put it up to number 1 if you wanted to, but
yeah,
it should be in everyone's top 2.
Yeah.
So now we get to number 1, which is The Road, which is probably the bleakest movie and book I've ever seen. It's just hopeless. It's just hopeless. So the book is my number 1 post-apocalyptic book. The Stand would be number 2, and then what was the other one we were talking about? I Am Legend would be number 3.
Yeah.
But The Road is written by Cormac McCarthy, and it's a minimalist style in the book, and it's a minimalist style in the movie. They're not giving you a lot of character development. It's just, yo, look at this place. It sucks. We're just living out the string. There's no hope at all.
It's a great cast. Wow.
Yeah. If you haven't seen this, it's fantastic. It's a perfect adaptation. It was exactly what I saw in my head when I read the book. I'm usually pretty harsh on novel adaptations.
Sure.
But this one is fantastic. It's, I've watched it twice, even though I love it, because it's that bleak. It's like, it just leaves you empty when you're done.
Yeah.
Because it's so dark.
Jeez, look at this cast.
That's perfect.
Are you kidding me?
They can't see what you're seeing, in case you didn't know. You'd have to describe it.
You got Viggo Mortensen. You've got Michael Kenneth. When you see his face. What's his last name?
I don't know that guy.
Oh, yeah, he's been in tons of
Michael
stuff.
Kenneth Williams.
Yeah. Robert Duvall, for Christ's sake. Gina, she's been in a bunch of stuff like early 2000s, late 90s.
No,
she was like kind of big.
You're gonna have to say like whole names, dude. There's people watching.
Well, he keeps moving around. I don't remember their full names. I mean, of course you remember like Charlize Theron and
it's
Robert
a great
Duvall,
cast.
Garrett Dillahunt. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Wow. I got to see this.
Yeah, you should see it. It's number 1 on my list. So
yeah.
Anyways, that's our top 10 list, which goes to 11.
It does.
And that's great. You made a list too, right?
I did. I know.
Is it as good as mine?
That wasn't the plan. Well,
is it as good as mine?
If you let me finish.
So that's a no.
Even if it was, would you admit it was?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So what's funny is I was just getting ready.
Did yours go to 11?
No, it did not. Mine actually only went to 9.
Oh, okay.
Because I was like, I'm going to write down some of the ones that I think are cool, and we'll compare notes, so to speak. And what's hilarious, or whatever, is we had a lot of similar Book of Eli, Rain of Fire, Snowpiercer, The Postman, and I just put Mad Max series because I just put that because I was like, man, it's hard to
Because
list.
that could be 5 movies.
It could. I mean, Road Warrior has always been my favorite, so I probably should have just written that one down. But I also The Escape from New York and L.A. Those were fun. I wrote the Children of Men with Clive Owen.
Mm-hmm.
I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
Now that one, I guess, was post-apocalyptic, or there was still kind of a force.
It's dystopian.
That was dystopian.
Because there's a government.
That's
Escape
okay.
from New York is still dystopian.
See,
Escape
this
from
is
LA
educational for
dystopian.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's you're not alone. That's why I like to define it at the beginning, because it's like, yo,
Yeah.
this is what I'm specifically talking about. Because there's different vibes there, right?
Mhm.
Like those ones you describe where you're like trying to survive in this world that sucks. That's kind of the point of dystopian,
Mhm.
right? It's not so much the case in post-apocalyptic movies.
I put Book of Eli as number 2 for me.
That's high up there.
Yeah,
That's
I
high
really
praise.
that
That's high
movie
praise.
really resonated with me for post-apocalyptic stuff.
Now, why is that one so high up there for you?
I'm not gonna lie, the character itself was just very cool.
Mm.
I liked how
Denzel?
Yeah, I liked how verbally understated he was. He was an extremely disciplined character, but had this like you just always felt like he was this volcano, but a very controlled, kind of force.
Yeah.
He kind of had a code in a way on how he dealt with people, which is always fun. Gary Oldman in pretty much anything for me, like, puts a movie up a couple notches. And just the overall aesthetic of it really matched what I like in post-apocalyptic.
I don't know. Scott's
Stuff.
laughing at something. I don't know.
Here we go again.
Uh-oh, there's a
what
Scott
do we
laugh.
got now?
All right, just finish off with your thing, and he'll.
I was
Scott will
pretty
tell.
much done there. But yeah, the aesthetic nailed for like my parameters. The aesthetic. What are you doing?
Is this a movie that is elevated by Gary Oldman's presence?
Oh,
So
no.
Scott's showing me
Oh,
a
God
picture for
damn.
something called Tiptoes. What is
He's
Tiptoes?
trying to throw at my face because I said pretty much anything.
He's
with
basically
Gary
disproving you with the movie Tiptoes.
Oldman. He is.
And I
All right, let me read this. Carol falls in love with Stephen without knowing much about him. When Carol finds herself pregnant, it forces Stephen to expose a secret. Stephen happens to be the only average-sized person in a family of dwarves, including his twin brother Rolf. Is this movie elevated by Gary Oldman? Yeah.
Rolf.
I've never heard of this.
Me neither. Tiptoes.
It's got a great cast. I'm not going to watch that. It sounds awful. It sounds absolutely dreadful. But do you think it's elevated?
What did you think of it? Did you watch? Did you see it? You actually saw Tiptoes?
It's very bad.
You did. You watched Tiptoes. Wow. Maybe you had the same idea I did, where it's like, oh, it's Gary Oldman. Come on. And
No.
You
I
were
watched it-
sorely-
I watched it out of spite and curiosity.
The counter example.
Spite. I put. You're gonna hate this. I can't wait to tell you. The Happening.
That is apocalyptic, not post.
Not possible. So okay, that actually helps. And
I
12
love
months.
The Happening. I think that movie's hilarious.
Me too.
It's so bad.
It's fun and bad, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
got hey, what's going on? Hey, maybe you guys should come with me. What do you think? 12 Monkeys. Is that apocalyptic?
Mm,
It's a tough one. I almost feel like it's all.
it's all jumbled up. It could be like all of them because it's a little bit dystopian with the way things are run in the beginning,
Okay.
and then it's apocalyptic because it hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. And then it has happened, and it's dystopian. It's like it's kind of all three.
Okay.
I think it's overrated. I think it's a pile of time jumping garbage, but that's the way I feel about most time jump movies.
I'm gonna ask you because I already have my answer. What is your if you had to be thrown into a post-apocalyptic world? What would be your favorite thing about the change? One thing.
About the
If
change.
you had to pick one thing, what would be your favorite thing? That's different from this.
I think my favorite thing would just be like roll. Like I assume I'm on my own. Am I on my own, or do I have to like protect my wife or family and friends? Am I just on my own? What am I doing?
Let's
Okay,
make it
I'm just
simple.
on my own.
Yeah, you're on
If
your
I was
own.
just on my own, I'm all sad and stuff. I think my favorite thing would probably be just rolling up into a place and just laying there and like reading a book. Like if I had enough food, I was like, I ate for the day. I scooped out like 3 stale SpaghettiOs out of this empty can, so I'm good for the day.
So the simplicity would be
The
your favorite
simplicity
thing.
of it is
Okay.
nice. Yeah, I don't got a cell phone. I don't have to email people. I don't have to listen to people talk about their bad movie lists, or do Austin Powers impersonations. I can just sit there and like read a book and be left alone until I need more food.
I love it.
Yeah. What about you?
Mine's tough. It's down to 2 things, but they're both kind of one thing. And I would say a lack of traffic. There's just no traffic. There's no loud, just cars that you're sitting in. It's just traffic. But then I thought, but there probably be no broccoli heads either, because those guys can't survive worth a damn in anything, especially if they don't have cell phones. But then they're also kind of what make traffic worse. So I'm thinking no broccoli heads.
Okay.
And if there were, because there's no laws,
Do
you
you
could
know
just
that
kill them and get away
absolutely
with
no
it.
one has any idea what you're talking about when you talk about broccoli heads?
You don't think so? I
No?
think it's a pretty common thing now.
No one has any clue.
You know, these young tough guys with their pulled up kind of like faux 80s fashion socks and their gold chains, and they like talk about lifting and like who would win in a fight, a wrestler or a Muay Thai guy, or a boxer or a Muay Thai guy online, and they just flex online and drive BMWs. Broccoli heads. They have a broccoli haircut.
So their hair, you call them broccoli head because their heads look like broccoli
Yeah.
because of their haircut.
Yeah. There wouldn't
Okay.
be any more of them. There's no way those guys could survive an apocalypse. And if there were, you could kill them and get
They'd be
away
running
with
the
it.
show. They'd
What's
be
that?
running the show. They'd be like in their car, blasting down the street as loud as possible.
They'd be
And they're like,
running-
I'm gonna eat you, bro. Bro, I'm gonna eat you, bro. That's what would be happening.
Yo, bro was walking, bro. Like, bro was walking, and I ate, bro. Bro, I was driving by bro, and I ate, bro.
Bro tasted good, bro.
Bro. Bro, I'm original, bro. No one talks like this, bro.
Nobody talks like me, bro. All right. Well, that was a great list. I mean, I think it sounds like you might have to revise your list because
I might
so
have
much
to.
of it was like,
We kind of picked a lot of the same stuff, but then I have some things where the parameters that you explained,
Yeah.
now I'm like, oh, shit, I got to go back and... Because that's true. That's like apocalypse. It's a currently happening thing in the movie.
Mhm.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us for the 3rd episode. We hope you had a good time. And if you haven't seen all the movies on my list, feel free to check them out wherever you can find them, because they're great and my list is perfect. If you don't like my list, feel free to insult me in the comments, or Nick. Nick's this was bad. And if you do like what we're doing, remember to click the like thing, the bell thing to subscribe, so that we can
How do you
do
make a
more of this
bell?
stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll talk at you soon. Thank you.
Follow me to the sultry streets, open your ears and brains. A recipe of fresh and bloody trees, right here's where you jump the trains. The clock stops here, so grab a beer, throw your sensibilities away. We ain't walking, we're talking to the north, east, west, and south. This is where we cast is fast like the dead we will last. We're running on rotten mouths. We ain't walking, we're talking to the north, east, west, and south.